Some men think women move on easily, that once the relationship ends, or even if it never started, she forgets all about him and goes on like nothing ever happened. But the truth is, that's not how it works. There are certain things a man can do that leave a lasting impression, even years after he's out of her life. Not because he was rich, not because he looked like a model, but because of how he showed up. Welcome to the channel. Glad you're here. Around here we keep things real, easy to follow, and worth your time. Whether you're dating in a relationship or just trying to understand women better, this one's going to be eye-opening. Now, this isn't about tricks or pickup lines. This is about presence. It's about behavior, character, and how a man carries himself. When a guy consistently shows up in a certain way, strong, grounded, clear, it's unforgettable. Not in a clingy or desperate way, in a way that makes her respect him, remember him, and often compare other men to him. And let's be honest, most guys are forgettable. They play games, they overpromise. They try to impress instead of being solid. But when a man does the opposite, when he locks into a few key behaviors, that's when everything changes. This video is going to break down 5 specific things that make a man stick in a woman's mind. And if you're doing these already, great. You'll start to see how powerful they are. If not, this is your chance to change the game completely. So whether you're single, dating, or even already with someone, knowing these 5 things can completely shift how women see you, respond to you, and remember you long after you're gone. Let's get into it. Number 1. He walks away like he means it. There's something unforgettable about a man who can walk away calmly, clearly, and without turning it into a show. Most guys stick around too long. They hang on to something that's not working, hoping she'll change, waiting for her to see his value, or trying to fix things that clearly aren't fixable. That energy is heavy, and it pushes women away more than they realize. But when a man knows who he is, what he wants, and what he won't tolerate, walking away becomes a sign of strength, not weakness. It doesn't mean he stops caring. It means he respects himself enough not to settle. And that kind of move sticks with a woman. Picture this. She's been hot and cold. Some days she's all in, calling, texting, showing interest. Other days she pulls back, takes forever to respond, or seems emotionally unavailable. Most men would get anxious. They'd ask what's wrong, try harder to win her over, or make excuses for her behavior. But not this guy. He notices the shift, doesn't overreact, and doesn't chase. He gives it a bit of space. If nothing changes, he calmly lets her know he's not looking for confusion or games. And then, without begging, without drama, he leaves. He doesn't ghost. He's direct, and he's done. That kind of exit hits differently. Why? Because it's rare. He didn't lash out. He didn't make her the enemy. He simply showed that his time and energy are valuable. That's confidence most men don't have. And even if she doesn't show it right away, it leaves a mark. Maybe not in the moment, but later. When she meets other guys who tolerate mixed signals, who stick around too long, who can't walk unless they're pushed, she'll remember the one who didn't need to be convinced. Walking away isn't about power plays or manipulation. It's about knowing when enough is enough and being willing to leave with your self-respect intact. That kind of man, she doesn't forget him. Number 2, he makes her feel safe without smothering her. Even don't forget how a man made them feel. And one of the most powerful feelings a woman remembers is emotional safety. It's not just about physical protection or being the tough guy. Emotional safety is quieter, but way more impactful. It's the kind of thing that makes her feel like she can breathe when she's around you. Like she doesn't have to filter herself, hide parts of who she is, or walk on eggshells. But here's where a lot of men miss the mark. They think making her feel safe means hovering, constantly checking in, trying to stop her, and solve all her problems, wanting to be involved in every detail of her life. That's not safety, that's pressure. It's good intentions coming off as control. Real safety starts with how a man carries himself. When he's calm, emotionally steady, and not easily thrown off, she feels that. When he listens without jumping to conclusions, giving advice she didn't ask for, or reacting out of insecurity, it sends a clear message. I can handle this. I'm not here to fix you. I'm just here. And listening, really listening, is a huge part of that. Not the kind of listening where he's just waiting for his turn to talk, but where he's fully present. When she feels like she's actually being heard, not judged or analyzed, she starts to relax. And that's something most women rarely get. It's not common, which is why it sticks with her when she finds it. The other piece of this is space. A man who makes her feel safe doesn't cling. He doesn't need constant reassurance. He gives her room to think, breathe, and be herself. That doesn't mean he pulls away. It just means he's not crowding her emotionally. He's secure in himself, and that creates an environment where she can be secure too. And here's the part that really separates him. He doesn't try to keep the peace by avoiding hard conversations. He says what needs to be said, but in a calm, respectful way. He can sit in uncomfortable moments without blowing up, shutting down, or changing the subject. That kind of emotional control is what builds long-term trust. He's not perfect. He doesn't have to be. But he's consistent. And that consistency creates a solid foundation. No games, no drama. Just a steady presence that gives her the space to be real. That kind of safety, she might not talk about it out loud, but she remembers it. Because most guys either smother her or ignore her. But the man who gives her both presence and peace, he's hard to forget. Number 3, he says what most men won't. Let's be honest, most men hold back from saying what's real. And it's not always because they're liars. It's because they're afraid. Afraid of confrontation. Afraid of rejection. Afraid of losing what little attention they've got. So they play nice. They nod when they disagree. They pretend they're okay when they're not. They say, it's cool when inside, they're anything but cool. But here's the thing, a woman never forgets a man who says what others are too scared to say. Not to provoke, not to impress, but to be honest with calm, grounded confidence. Imagine this, you're seeing someone. She's inconsistent, hot and cold. Most guys would stay silent, hoping it stabilizes. But you look her in the eye and say, listen, I'm not here to decode mixed signals. If you're in, let's move forward. If not, that's fine too. I just won't stay in confusion. That moment right there is what separates men she forgets from the ones who leave a mark. Because clarity is unforgettable. Most women are used to men dodging truth like it's fire. They're surrounded by pleasers. Men who say yes but mean no. Men who ghost when things get real. Men who say they're ready for something deep, but fold the second tension shows up. So when she meets a man who's real, who speaks his truth, even if it's uncomfortable, she remembers that. Even if it stings, even if she doesn't like what he said. The way he said it, firm but not cruel, clear but not defensive, stays with her. It's not about being blunt, it's about being clean. And this is where Stoicism comes in. The Stoics didn't believe in hiding or over-explaining. They believed in living with reason, courage, and temperance. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "If it is not right, do not do it. If it is not true, do not say it." But that means you must first know your truth, your standards, your values, your emotional limits. Because only when you're grounded in yourself can you speak with clarity without being reactive. It's not about winning arguments. It's about being in alignment. There's a difference between blurting out emotion and expressing truth. One is impulse, the other is integrity. Let me give you another example. She says something that rubs you the wrong way in public. Maybe it's subtle. Maybe it's a joke at your expense. A lot of guys would laugh it off, shrug, pretend it's no big deal. But you You wait until the moment is right. You look at her later, calmly, and say, I get that it was meant as a joke, but I don't make fun of you in front of people, and I expect the same respect back. No yelling, no drama, just boundaries. And guess what? Even if she gets defensive at first, she'll remember that moment, because it told her something. You have a spine. You won't sell your self-respect for a smile. You're a man, not just a boy looking for affection. You'd be surprised how many women respect a man more after he speaks up, even when it challenges them. Why? Because deep down, every woman wants to feel emotionally safe. And that safety comes from your honesty, your consistency, not your compliance. And here's the deeper truth. When you say what most men won't, you're not just leading the relationship, you're leading yourself. You're showing the world and her that you'd rather lose her being real than keep her by being fake. And that's power. Not loud, arrogant power, but quiet conviction. You become a man she remembers, not because of how much you wanted her, but because of how much you respected yourself in front of her. And that leaves a mark. So, if you've ever had the courage to speak your truth when staying silent would have been easier, drop this in the comments. I said it anyway. And keep going. Because the man who tells the truth doesn't chase validation. He becomes the standard. Number 4. He never chases, he leads. There's a difference between chasing a woman and leading with purpose. Most men don't know that line, so they blur it. They start off with confidence, but somewhere along the way, they lose the plot. They begin reacting to her energy instead of staying grounded in their own. And just like that, the man becomes the follower, not in action but in mindset. Now, look, chasing might feel good at first. It gives you something to do, a mission. You think, if I just show her I'm interested enough, maybe she'll come around. But here's what you're really doing. You're putting her on the pedestal. You're turning her into the prize. You're telling her without words that her presence matters more than your direction. And guess what? She feels that energy. It might flatter her short term, but long term, it kills attraction. Because women don't want to be chased. They want to feel pulled by a man who's already moving. Let me give you an example. A man's out at a bar. He sees a woman he's attracted to. She smiles once, then turns back to her drink. Most guys would hover, linger, try to keep her attention. They'd initiate again, follow her around, try to prove themselves. But the man who leads, he walks up, says something real, confident, but brief. If she engages, great. If not, he nods and walks away. No ego, no pressure, no chasing. Why? Because he's not there for her. He's there to live his life. She's just someone who caught his eye, someone who defines his night. That's the difference. Leading means you're not trying to win her over, you're inviting her into your path. You have direction, a purpose, a vision. She either aligns with it or she doesn't. And here's where Stoicism speaks loudest. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. Be one." That's leadership. You don't talk about being a strong man. You live it. And you don't adapt your strength just to fit someone else's expectations. Leading doesn't mean controlling. It means clarity. When you know who you are, what you want, and where you're going, you don't have to chase anything. People feel your momentum. Women feel it too. It's in the way you speak firm, not forceful. In the way you text clear, not needy. In the way you walk away when something doesn't meet your standard. You're not afraid to leave the table when respect isn't being served. That's not cold, that's powerful. And women remember that kind of man, not because he impressed them, but because he showed them, this is where I'm going. You're welcome to join, but I'm not waiting. Now let me be real. This doesn't mean you don't pursue. It means you pursue with direction, not desperation. You move forward. You express interest. But if that energy isn't matched, you fall back with grace. Not silence out of punishment, but silence out of self-respect. Because chasing says, I need your approval. Leading says, I already approve of myself. That shift is massive. It takes emotional control. It takes vision. It takes a backbone, especially when your feelings want to take the wheel. But once you make that shift, everything changes. You're no longer waiting for her response. You're watching if she qualifies for your energy. You're not afraid of losing her because you've found yourself. That's rare. That's what makes her remember you. So, if you've ever pulled back not to punish, but to protect your peace, drop this in the comments. I lead. I don't chase. And stay with me. Because when a man stops orbiting her and starts orbiting his mission, he becomes unforgettable. Number 5. He knows when to shut up. Here's a truth most men learn the hard way. Silence can save you more than words ever will. Especially when emotions are high. Especially when you feel the urge to explain, defend, justify, or fix things. Most guys don't get this. They think communication is king, so they talk a lot. They explain themselves to death. They overtext. They try to talk their way into clarity or attraction. And in doing so, they kill both. Why? Because silence isn't the enemy. It's a skill, a powerful one. A man who knows when to shut up isn't weak. He's dangerous in the best way because he's disciplined. Let me paint the picture. She's upset. Emotions are running high. Maybe it's about you. She throws words like knives. Maybe she's being unfair. The average guy? He reacts. He raises his voice. He gets defensive. He talks over her just to feel in control again. But the man she can't forget, he pauses. He doesn't match her chaos. He doesn't retaliate. He lets the storm pass without adding fuel to the fire. That kind of silence is commanding. It says, I don't need to win this moment. I'm here for something deeper. It tells her you can stay calm in discomfort, that you don't panic under pressure. And whether she realizes it in that moment or not, she will respect that. Silence isn't avoidance. It's emotional control. It's the kind of restraint rooted in Stoicism. Seneca once wrote, sometimes even to live is an act of courage. To stay silent when your pride is screaming at you to lash out. That's courage too. You see, Stoicism doesn't mean you're cold or passive. It means you don't let your emotions dictate your mouth. You listen, you observe, you speak only when the words are worth more than the silence. Now, this doesn't only apply in arguments. It applies in dating, too. Some guys text paragraphs after a date, trying to lock things down. They flood the conversation. They check in every few hours to stay relevant. But the man who knows when to shut up, he creates space. He lets his presence linger without chasing validation. He gives her room to feel his absence and miss it. Silence isn't a punishment. It's a frame. It invites her to fill in the blanks. Because here's the truth. People notice who's not talking. They wonder what you're thinking. They start to value your words because you don't waste them. Let me give you a real-life contrast. 2 guys go on a first date. The first one texts her 3 times the next day. Had a great time. Just checking if you got home safe. Let me know when you're free again. The second guy, 1 text. Direct, clear. Then silence. He's not cold. He's intentional. Guess which one she's more curious about? Exactly. She's not forgetting the second guy anytime soon. Why? Because he's not performing. He's not explaining. He's just showing up, then stepping back. And that takes restraint. That takes strength. Knowing when to shut up also means you don't try to rescue awkward moments. If the vibe is off, you don't force chemistry with nervous chatter. You sit in the tension. You let silence do its job. Because real men aren't afraid of stillness. They use it. They know it makes their words land harder when they do speak. It makes their boundaries firmer. It makes their energy stand out. So next time you feel the urge to say more, a pause. Ask yourself, am I adding value or am I reacting out of fear? Because the man who talks to prove something is forgettable. But the man who speaks with intention and stops when enough is said, She remembers him. Always. If you've ever held back when you could have unloaded, if you've ever chosen silence over self-sabotage, drop this in the comments. I held my power. And don't go anywhere. The next thing we're about to talk about might just be what separates respected men from the ones who get walked over. Number 6. He doesn't tolerate low standards. Let's be honest. Most guys say they have standards until they're attracted. Then suddenly, everything's negotiable. She cancels last minute? No worries, I understand. She flirts with other guys in front of you? It's just her personality. She's inconsistent, disrespectful, unclear. I just need to be more patient. Number. You don't need more patience. You need stronger boundaries. Because having standards isn't about what you say, it's what you enforce. And the man she never forgets. He doesn't beg for respect. He expects it and he walks when it's not there. See, when a man tolerates low standards, he's teaching her how to treat him. Every time you let something slide that goes against your values, you're signaling one thing: I don't believe I deserve better. And guess what? She picks up on that. Fast. It doesn't matter how confident you sound or how nice you are. If you accept behavior that's beneath what you say you want, you become forgettable. But when you have the backbone to say no with calm clarity, that sticks. Let me break it down. You're dating a woman. She's beautiful, charming, checks every box except one. She's inconsistent. Some days she's into you. Other days, she disappears. Most guys would make excuses. She's busy. She's just scared. End quote. I just need to prove I'm worth it. But you don't chase clarity. You create it. You say, I like spending time with you, but I'm not looking for something that feels halfway. If you're unsure, I respect that, but I won't be an option. Boom. Respect. Even if she's not ready to meet your standard, she won't forget the man who had the guts to set it. That's leadership. That's presence. That's real value. And here's where Stoicism sharpens the edge. Epictetus said, you become what you give your attention to. So if you constantly accept less than what you want, guess what you're training yourself to expect? Exactly. Less. And not just from women, but from yourself. Men who tolerate low standards in relationships usually tolerate them in life. They let people waste their time. They stay in jobs they hate. They make peace with mediocrity. But a man of Stoic discipline, he knows the external world doesn't control him. He controls what he engages with. So if a situation or a woman violates his core values, he doesn't explode. He just exits, quietly, decisively, without drama. That's rare, and that's why it's powerful. Now, I'm not talking about being rigid or arrogant. Having standards doesn't mean being inflexible. It means knowing the difference between compromise and self-betrayal. It's okay to be patient. It's okay to give grace. But the moment grace turns into tolerance of disrespect, you've crossed a line. And here's something most guys never realize. The moment you drop your standards to keep her, you lose her anyway. Because attraction dies where self-respect ends. So if she disrespects your time, if she flakes, if she plays games, you don't explain your worth. You show it by walking away. That move, that's unforgettable. Not because you tried to make her miss you, but because you didn't let her lower the bar and call it love. And trust me, she'll feel that. Maybe not immediately, but when she meets the next guy who has no backbone, no clarity, no standard, she'll remember you. The man who didn't just talk about value, but embodied it. So let me ask you straight. Have you ever stayed too long in a situation that didn't meet your standard? If the answer is yes, and you've learned from it, drop this in the comments. I know my worth. And don't leave just yet. Because next, we're diving into something deeper. What happens when you leave someone better than you found them? Number 7. He leaves her better than he found her. Here's something that separates men. She forgets. from the ones she can't stop thinking about. He doesn't just take something from her. He gives, and not money, not favors. He gives growth, not through big lectures, not by fixing her, but just by being who he is with honesty, depth, and presence. Most guys focus on what they get out of a relationship: validation, sex, status. So when it ends, they either feel resentful or empty. But the man she remembers? He leaves a mark not because of what he took, but because of what he left behind. Let me explain. Maybe it was the first time she felt heard without being judged. Maybe it was how he handled conflict with calm clarity, not chaos. Maybe it was how he reminded her, through his actions, what respect actually looks like. Even if the relationship didn't last forever, she walked away different, more self-aware, more elevated, more clear on what she will and won't accept next time. That's rare, and it's powerful. Now I know what some guys are thinking. What do I care what she learns from me if we're not together? Fair question. But here's the truth. It's not about her. It's about who you are. You don't treat people with integrity because they deserve it. You do it because you deserve to live with integrity. That's Stoicism 101. Marcus Aurelius said, "Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. Be one." So even if she disrespected you, even if she walked away, even if she took you for granted, you don't return fire with fire. You stay calm. You close the chapter clean. You walk away with your dignity and leave her with a version of masculinity she's not going to forget. That doesn't make you weak. It makes you a force of stability in a world full of emotional chaos. Let me give you an example. You're dating a woman. It's good, but you notice some red flags: inconsistency, avoidance, lack of clarity. Most guys either stay and try to fix her or explode and leave a mess behind. But you don't shame her. You don't try to make her see her flaws. You just say, "I care about you, but I'm looking for something clear, honest, and built on mutual respect. And if we're not there, I'd rather walk away clean than pretend." That's it. No drama, no guilt, just clarity and respect. She might not react well in the moment, but trust me, when she lies awake weeks later, thinking about what kind of man she wants in her life, she'll remember you. Because you showed her something most men never do. That you can leave without burning everything down. That you can love without losing yourself. And that you can end things with strength, not bitterness. Women are emotional creatures. They remember how they felt around you. They remember if your presence brought clarity or confusion, peace or pressure. And when your presence made her life better, even if briefly, she carries that with her. That's your legacy as a man. Not just who you loved, but how you treated them. What they became after crossing paths with you. And the man who understands that, he doesn't leave behind scars. He leaves behind standards. So let me ask you, have you ever walked away from someone, not because they were bad, but because you refused to be dragged down by the chaos? If that's you, and you chose to end things with grace, drop this in the comments. I left with peace. And stay tuned, because what comes next isn't just about being remembered. It's about being unshakable in who you are. Number 8. She feels safe but turned on. There's a powerful contradiction that very few men know how to pull off. Being the man who makes her feel safe and turns her on at the same time. Most guys fall into one of two traps. They're either too soft, always agreeable, too available, too nice, or they swing the other, way hyper-dominant, aloof, emotionally unavailable. But the man she never forgets? He finds the balance. He's grounded, calm, and emotionally mature, but also unpredictable enough to keep her attention burning. That's rare. That's masculine polarity. Because here's the truth. A woman can feel safe with a man and still be bored. And she can be attracted to a man, but never fully trust him. But when those two forces, security and sexual energy, exist in the same person, that's magnetic. Let's break it down. Emotional safety means she knows she won't be judged, manipulated, or controlled. It means your energy is consistent. You're not reactive. You don't weaponize your silence. You're present, not just physically but emotionally. That kind of man makes her nervous system relax. She can breathe around him. She can be real. But he's not soft. He doesn't coddle her. He doesn't play therapist. He doesn't act like her emotional support puppy. He's grounded in his mission. He has standards. He'll listen, but he won't let her emotions steer his direction. And that's where the attraction kicks in. Because women don't just want a good guy, Lance. They want a man who feels like a mountain. Calm, still, unshakable. But underneath, you can feel the fire. You're not passive. You're contained. You don't need to be loud to be dominant. Your energy speaks before your mouth does. Here's a real example. You're on a date. She's testing you, subtle sarcasm, maybe some emotional poking. Most guys laugh nervously or get defensive. But you look her in the eye, smirk slightly, and say nothing. You hold your ground. You don't flinch. That silence, that moment, that's not just confidence. That's sexual gravity. Because she realizes this man isn't here to impress me. He's already impressed with who he is. And that's what makes her feel safe. Not because you're trying hard to prove your loyalty, but because nothing about you needs to prove anything. At the same time, your restraint creates tension. She doesn't quite know what you're thinking. She wonders what it would feel like to break past your calm exterior. And that's when safety becomes arousal. Now here's the Stoic layer. The Stoics believed in self-control, clarity, and strength under pressure. But they weren't emotionally dead. They felt everything. They just weren't ruled by what they felt. Marcus Aurelius ruled an empire, but he still wrote about grief, desire, and love. His power wasn't in ignoring emotion, it was in how he handled it. And that's exactly how modern masculinity should look. Not robotic, not reactive, just grounded. A man who holds space without losing his edge. Who listens but doesn't fold. Who protects without becoming a doormat. That's the man who ignites her mentally, emotionally, and yes, sexually. Because he gives her something she craves more than anything else. Safety to surrender. And I don't mean submission in the cheesy, power-tripping way. I mean a deep, unconscious feeling where she can let go of control. Because she knows you're not going to judge her, abandon her, or chase her. You just are, present, solid, undeniable. She can trust your presence, and that makes everything else feel 10 times more intense. So if you've ever been told, there's just something about you, chances are you've already tapped into this. And if you haven't yet, know this. It's not about looks, money, or pickup lines. It's about how safe and unchallenged you are in yourself. When a woman feels that, she doesn't forget it. So if you know exactly what I'm talking about, drop this in the comments. I'm the calm in the storm. And keep watching. Because the next shift we're going to unpack might be the most crucial in how women reframe your entire presence. Number 9. He's comfortable being wanted, not needy. Let's get something straight. Being wanted and being needy are not the same thing. Not even close. In fact, the difference between the two is everything. Most men want to be wanted. That's human. But the problem is they don't feel valuable unless they're being validated. And that's where the neediness begins. You can feel it in the way they text, in the way they try too hard to please, in the way they panic when a woman pulls back, even just a little. But the man who's comfortable being wanted, he's different. He enjoys the attention, sure, but he doesn't need it to know who he is. That's magnetic. Let me give you a real-world contrast. Guy A gets attention from a woman. She flirts, laughs, leans in. He gets excited, but instantly starts over-analyzing. How do I keep this going? What if she loses interest? He starts texting more, replying faster. Suddenly, He's no longer being himself. He's trying to perform for approval. Now guy B, same attention, same spark, but he stays cool. He's amused by her interest, not addicted to it. If she's responsive, great. If she's not, he's still good. Why? Because his self-worth wasn't built on her attention in the first place. That's what makes him stand out. Not the need to get something, but the ability to enjoy it without losing himself. And women, they sense that. They can feel when you're holding on loosely versus clinging tightly. They know when your calm is real, or just an act until they pull away. A man who's comfortable being wanted doesn't try to prove anything. He flirts without pressure. He compliments without expectation. He enjoys the moment without trying to turn it into something it's not. That level of emotional discipline, it makes her lean in harder. Here's the Stoic lens. Epictetus said, "Freedom is the only worthy goal in life. It is won by disregarding things that lie beyond our control. Attention, affection, interest, those are external. They're welcome, but they're not yours to control. What is yours? Your response to it." So when a woman is drawn to you, and you don't grip tighter, when you let it unfold naturally without trying to manage her perception, you become untouchable. It's not coldness, it's inner freedom, and inner freedom is rare. Most people are emotional addict chasing validation like a fix. But the man who can enjoy a woman's presence without depending on it for identity, that's the man who keeps her curious, because she never feels like you're trying to lock her in. You're not treating her attention like oxygen. You're breathing just fine with or without it. And ironically, that's when she starts craving your presence more, because she feels it's not coming from a place of neediness, but choice. And that flips the script entirely. Let me say this. You're allowed to enjoy being desired. You're allowed to feel proud of the impact you have. But the moment you start chasing it, controlling it, or fearing its absence, you've given your power away. So the next time you feel that surge, that urge to overtext, to double message, to ask, "Are you mad?" Pause. Ask yourself, am I reacting to her or responding from me? Because the man who's grounded in his own value doesn't need confirmation. He is confirmation. And when she senses that she doesn't just want you, she respects you. If you've ever walked into a room knowing you're enough without saying a word, drop this in the comments. I don't need, I choose. And stay close. Because the last shift we're about to unpack is the one that makes her realize she underestimated you all along. Number 10. His absence stings more than his presence. There's a quiet kind of power that very few men understand. It's not how loud you speak. It's not how many times you show up. It's not even in what you do. It's in what happens when you're no longer there. Most guys think presence is everything. Text her every morning. Show her you care. Let her know you're thinking of her. They believe more attention equals more attraction. But the truth is, you don't become unforgettable by being constantly available. You become unforgettable when your silence leaves a void she can't ignore. Let's make this clear. You don't disappear to punish. You don't pull back as a manipulation tactic. You simply know your worth. And when a connection becomes one-sided, disrespectful, or misaligned, you're willing to exit quietly. And that silence, it echoes. Why? Because up until now, she's been in control of the rhythm. She was the one who decided when to reply, when to show interest, when to give or withhold her energy. And most men just played along. But when you remove yourself from the equation, not out of emotion, but out of principle, it disrupts everything. Suddenly, she's left with questions. Why isn't he reaching out? Is he over me? Did he go too far? She replays the last conversation. She checks your stories. She watches your silence and starts to feel something she didn't expect. Loss. See, presence is easy to take for granted. But absence? Absence forces reflection. When a man who brought clarity, calm, and value suddenly steps back. It creates space for her to see what she overlooked. Maybe you were always there, too patient, too consistent, too generous with your energy. And because she never had to earn it, she stopped valuing it. But when it's gone, she remembers the way you made her feel. Not just the romantic gestures, but the way your energy stabilized her chaos. And here's the thing, Stoicism is not about disappearing. It's about not needing to force your presence. The Stoic man knows when to hold space, and when to walk away from spaces that no longer honor his value. He doesn't shout, "You'll miss me." He simply lives a life she no longer gets to be part of. That absence hits different, because there's no drama, no messy goodbye, just a clean break wrapped in silence and self-respect. She can't argue with it. She can't fix it with a cute text. She can't manipulate what's no longer responding, so she feels the difference. Your absence highlights what your presence truly was, a gift. And she realizes, not all men are replaceable. You didn't just bring good conversation or attention. You brought presence. You brought peace. You brought a version of masculinity that can't be duplicated. Now, this doesn't mean you disappear from everyone. It means you're selective with your access. It means people only get close to you when they show they value what you bring. And when they don't, you don't explain yourself. You don't beg to be seen. You go, not out of pride, but principle. Because when you know what you offer, you don't chase anyone to see it. You let them feel it, when it's no longer there. And the man who moves like that, he becomes unforgettable. Not because he fought for attention, but because he withdrew it with grace and purpose. And that sting, that absence, it lingers far longer than presence ever could. Before you go, I want you to remember this. You don't need to chase. You don't need to explain. You don't need to beg for space in someone's mind. You create that space by becoming the man who moves with quiet certainty. The man who doesn't tolerate disrespect. The man who leads, listens, and walks away when needed, without burning bridges. Women remember that man, because he's rare, because he's whole, because his presence was a gift, and his absence, a lesson. If you got value from this, make sure you subscribe so you never miss the next insight. And if you're ready to go deeper, join our Stoic Brotherhood, where men like you are mastering emotional strength, self-respect, and attraction without games. Thanks for watching. Take care of yourself. And I'll see you tomorrow.